Chapter 61 Special Guests. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Recite the Situ website silently 3 times. Do you remember it? If you don't remember, I'll ask again in the next chapter. It's best to share it on Facebook for me. Zhao Xinyu was slightly startled by these words. The vegetables and fish he grew were delicious. Others didn't know the reason, but he knew that it was all because of the effect of spatial water. In fact, he was just like them. If you can grow vegetables, what skills do you have? He knew the reason himself, but he couldn't say it. He smiled faintly. Grandpa Han and the others also know what skills I have. Grandpa Han and the others are almost responsible for growing vegetables. If everyone wants to get rich, they really have it. Away. These words made the villagers excited. They had been poor for so many years and now had an opportunity. How could they miss it? Everyone has also seen that the vegetables, meat and even grains sold on the market now do not contain pesticides or chemical fertilizers. We have our advantages. Our village does not have enough water sources, so planting is not feasible, but everyone can engage in breeding. Raising poultry and meat without using feed. We have tried this method before. The breeding cycle without using feed is too long and the effect is not very good. Zhao Xinyu smiled faintly. That was before. Now how many people come to our village every day? They not only need vegetables, but also like meat. It's just that we don't have good quality meat and they don't want to eat it. There are indeed several kinds of local chickens and ducks that they will definitely be willing to eat. With their spread, more people will come to our village. As for farmland, I think it is better to plant high nutritional food than to plant food with too low yield. Grass is used to raise sheep and cattle. These words made the villagers who came over keep nodding, and many of them had already made a decision in their hearts, that is, to engage in breeding industry according to Zhao Xinyu's method. After seeing off the villagers who were paying New Year greetings, a group of people returned to their rooms and started preparing lunch. Although there were many people eating, there were also many people to cook. With Zhao Xinyu and Jing Min, meals for dozens of people were quickly served. Be prepared. Han Li, take Xiaopeng and Yuzhu out to set off the cannons. Let's have dinner and build a fire in the afternoon. Han Tianliang gave the order after the food was served. When the firecrackers bloomed in the sky and blessings sounded in the restaurant, when Han Li and the others came back, everyone raised their glasses together to wish them smooth sailing in the coming year. The meal took almost 2 hours to finish. Because there was still a fire in the afternoon, people didn't drink much at noon. After dinner and some fruits, Han Li and the others followed Han Tianliang and the others to the courtyard. Go to the base to make the fire strong. Zhao Xinyu originally planned to go over to help, but he didn't expect to receive a call from NaN. NaN heard that they were going to set off fireworks tonight, so he said hello to him in advance. They would also come over to have New Year's Eve dinner together and watch the fireworks. Firecrackers. Others didn't know Du Gang's identity, but he did. Knowing that the old man was coming, Zhao Xinyu hurriedly asked the lesbians who were putting away the dishes to clean the room, and asked Jiang Fei and his wife to go to the city to get 20 sets of brand new clothes. Bedding and daily necessities. While they were preparing, a sports car and 5 unusual commercial vehicles drove into the compound, and finally parked outside Shipley's yard. Xiaopeng and Yuzhu, who were playing with Haifeng outside, had already informed Zhao Xinyu when the car drove in. By the time Zhao Xinyu went out, the master had already entered the compound. Behind them were Du Yongchang, Du Shichang and Du Mingnan's aunt's 3 children. Perhaps he was worried about disturbing the villagers who were celebrating the New Year here. This time Du Gang came, and there were only 2 middle-aged men around him. They had already met when Zhao Xinyu went to Yanjing last time. Seeing Zhao Xinyu coming out, Du Gang laughed and said, Xinyu, I heard from Meng that your place is lively, so let's come and join in. Mr. Du, welcome, come home first. Jing Min, who stayed at home and was busy, all knew Du Mengnan, and they also knew that Du Mengnan's family was well off, so when Zhao Xinyu and the others took Du Gang and the others into the living room, they just brought some fruit to the living room and stayed there. The kitchen was busy preparing everything needed for the evening. After Du Gang sat down, he patted the place next to him and said, "Come, Xinyu, sit here, and I will introduce you to these incompetent guys of mine." Du Mengnan pursed his lips and snickered, while Du Yongchang and Du Shichang had wry smiles on their faces. Since the last time they returned to Pengcheng from Yanjing, the name they heard most every day was the name Zhao Xinyu. During the Mid-Autumn Festival, something happened to Zhao Xinyu, and the old man called for the first time to question him. From that time on, they also saw that the old man really liked Zhao Xinyu, which made them feel very uncomfortable. They all have children. Du Yongchang only has one son, Du Mengnan, but Du Shichang has a son and a daughter. Their sister Du Yuechang also has a son and a daughter. For these children, the old man is a forbidden place for them. Although they all know that the old man likes them, most of the time all they hear is criticism. As for Zhao Xinyu, the old man never said a bad word. Every time the child went back, the old man would compare him with Zhao Xinyu. The final result can be imagined. They all said that the children were not as good as Zhao Xinyu. Now they were said to be incompetent in front of Zhao Xinyu, which made them very unconvinced in their hearts. However, even if they were angry, they did not dare to show it. They could only sit there and listen silently. On the other hand, Du Mengnan's mother, Wang Qing, had been stealing glances at Zhao Xinyu, and then looked at her daughter. Finally, a trace of relief appeared in her eyes. "Xinyu, this is Menmeng's father Du Yongchang, that is Menmeng's second uncle Du Shichang, that is her aunt Du Yuechang, /d." Every time someone was introduced, Zhao Xinyu stood up and bowed to say hello, which suddenly made Du Yongchang, Du Shichang, and Du Yuechang feel a little doubtful in their hearts. Although Zhao Xinyu just said hello, they could feel that Zhao Xinyu was different from the village people in their impressions. As for Zhao Xinyu's performance, many city people with good family education could not do it, but Zhao Xinyu did it. What does this mean? Zhao Xinyu must have received a good family education when he was a child, and the person who educated him was not an ordinary person. "Du Mengyao, why don't you wish Zhao Xinyu New Year's greetings?" As soon as Zhao Xinyu sat down, Du Mengnan looked at a sweet-looking girl in her 20s and said. Du Mengyao was stunned for a moment, then stood up and sweetly called out, "Happy New Year, Brother Xinyu." After him, Du Ruoxin, Li Kersen, and Li Zhenghao all stood up to wish Zhao Xinyu New Year's greetings, which made Zhao Xinyu couldn't help but look at Du Mengnan. Du Mengnan chuckled, "What are you waiting for? It's their first time here. You can't let them pay New Year's greetings in vain." Zhao Xinyu scratched his head and said, "Wait a moment." Back in his room, Zhao Xinyu took out a small bag from the drawer and rubbed it with his fingers a few times. Inside the small bag was a centuries-old sandalwood tree he saw in Kaoyang Mountain. He selected a branch. "When I was not practicing at night, I carved some small objects. These small objects were carved with his heart. Every time he carved, he would think of his grandfather's teachings when he was a child. He carved these small objects in memory of his grandfather. Now that Du Mengyao and the others are paying New Year's greetings, and they are not short of money, he really wants to without giving anything away. He could only think of these small items that he was reluctant to give away. What a good thing, bring it here and let me see if I can pass it." When Zhao Xinyu came in, Du Mengnan took the bag in his hand, then sat on the other side of his grandfather and opened it. A strong smell of sandalwood filled the air, and everyone present was stunned. They were of extraordinary origins, and just by the smell, they could feel that the contents in the small bag should be aged sandalwood. With a crash, Du Mengnan poured the contents onto the coffee table. Everyone immediately shrank their eyes. There were more than a dozen small objects on the table, including monkeys, tigers, and rabbits. Snake. The 12 zodiac signs are all available. In addition to the 12 zodiac signs, there are also auspicious animals such as dragons, phoenixes, and unicorns. Each piece is lifelike, and the carved animals seem to be alive. As long as you change the angle, you can find that the animals above are also changing accordingly. This is a gadget I made myself. See which one you like. I am a rabbit, and I want a rabbit. Du Mengyao was the first to take action and took away the rabbit pendant. I am a monkey. After Li Zhenghao took away a tiger pendant, Du Mengyao, who was the first to take away the rabbit pendant, suddenly saw another pendant under the dragon-shaped pendant. The pendant seemed to be a human figure. This is it. Du Mengyao picked up the pendant with a hint of doubt. Zhao Xinyu's expression changed when he saw the pendant Du Mengyao picked up. You can't take this pendant. He found that Du Mengnan had also seen it. Before he took the pendant, Du Mengnan had already taken it in his hand. When he saw the person carved on it, Du Mengnan's pretty face suddenly turned crimson, and a trace of light appeared in his eyes. Brilliant! I want this pendant. Du Mengnan put the pendant away without anyone seeing what was carved on it. Zhao Xinyu looked at Du Mengnan with a hint of embarrassment, but saw Du Mengnan smiling at him, which made Zhao Xinyu sigh. He glanced at the incomplete 12 zodiac signs on the coffee table and said, "Uncle, second uncle, and aunt you, please see if your zodiac sign is in it. If not, I will take some time to carve a few more for you." Seeing Zhao Xinyu speak, Du Yongchang and the others, who knew the value of the pendant, did not hesitate at all and each chose their own zodiac signs. However, Du Mengnan's mother Wang Qing and uncle Li De had the same zodiac sign as others, missing tiger and pig, putting away the pendants that no one wanted. Zhao Xinyu looked at Wang Qing and Li De. A pendant can be carved in about 3 days. Wait a few days and let Meng Meng take it back to you when I finish it. Little guy, do you know how much this pendant can be sold for? Du Gang suddenly said, at the beginning of the chapter, I asked you to read it silently 3 times. Do you remember? Share on Facebook and there may be surprises. Chapter 62, Coming Back for the New Year. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Recite the Situ website silently 3 times. Do you remember it? If you don't remember, I'll ask again in the next chapter. It's best to share it on Facebook for me. Zhao Xinyu laughed and said, Old man, this means that aged sandalwood is worth a little money. As a carver, I have ruined this fine sandalwood. Your grandpa taught you how to be a carver. How many years have you studied? I started learning when I was 6 years old. I kept sculpting when I had nothing to do before college. These words made everyone present moved. They knew from the old man and Du Mengnan that Zhao Xinyu knew a lot of things, such as Chinese medicine, cooking, and wine making, which he could call proficient. Now there is a carving craft, which, like cooking and Chinese medicine, starts at the age of 5 or 6, and continues for 12 years. Everyone's learning stage is different, but creativity can be achieved before youth. People think of the masters of sculpture. They have integrated art into sculpture after years of accumulation and taste of the various forms of the world. Although Zhao Xinyu is young now, they can all feel that Zhao Xinyu has merged the two together at this moment. This is decades earlier than what people call the master, but he still talks about ruining art. This if those masters heard it, they would not know what to think. Zhao Xinyu, if a pendant like yours is sold on the market, the estimated value should be more than 80,000. Du Yongchang looked at Zhao Xinyu. He wanted to see what kind of reaction Zhao Xinyu had, whether it was like what his father and daughter said. That look, Zhao Xinyu just smiled faintly and shook his head. It's just the price of aged sandalwood. You know the price of sandalwood. I know one thing. The last time I went into the mountain, I happened to see a century-old sandalwood tree, so I broke off a branch. His words made Du Yongchang and others who knew sandalwood couldn't help but look at each other. 100-year-old sandalwood is not worth hundreds or thousands. Just like the sandalwood used by Zhao Xinyu to carve pendants, each one can be measured in hundreds of millions. But Zhao Xinyu only bought a branch when he knew the value of sandalwood. What does this mean? In his eyes, money is the most common thing. Du Yongchang felt a little bitter in his heart. He always thought that Zhao Xinyu must have some agenda when he approached his daughter. He even said that he had given the Du family valuable drunken wine, but he didn't have any reaction. But at this moment, Du Yongchang his heart was moved, and he also felt that this young man was not what he thought he was. Sister, let me see who is carved on your pendant. Du Mengyao played with the rabbit pendant in her hand, but she was still thinking about the pendant that Du Mengnan snatched away. They are all carved by one person, with the same handiwork. It's up to you. Du Mengnan said angrily, and at this moment, a loud bird song came in, and Du Mengnan's eyes lit up. She looked at Zhao Xinyu. It's Jin Hen and Jin Yu who are back. Zhao Xinyu stood up and nodded to Du Gang. Old man, let me go out and take a look. I'll also take a look at the extinct Longpeng. Du Gang stood up with a smile. When a group of people left the living room, they felt two hurricane-like wind waves blowing in the courtyard, followed by two big golden birds landing in the flower bed in the courtyard. Beside them were two wild boars weighing more than 100 kilograms. The wild boars, there was still blood on his head, but there was no trace of breath. Looking at the two big guys with a height of 1.34 meters, and then looking at the silent wild boar beside them, even Du Gang couldn't help but gasp. They all know how tough wild boars are, and they often roll in the pine needles, and their bodies are covered with a thick mixture of rosin and soil. Even ordinary swords and guns may not be able to hurt them, but now they were attacked by two big birds. Kill, they don't even dare to think about how terrifying these two big birds are. If they encounter such big birds, they may not even have a chance to escape. The Du family looked at Jin Hen and Jin Yu, and Jin Hen and Jin Yu also looked at the Du family. When they saw Du Mengnan in the crowd, Jin Hen and Jin Yu chirped towards Du Mengnan, obviously saying hello to Du Mengnan. Zhao Xinyu shook his head. Jin Hen and Jin Yu came back with two wild boars. They would stay in the village for the new year today. He looked towards the kitchen and saw Jing Min and the others lying on the window watching. Sister Min, who is the butcher in our village? Ask him to come and help. While he was speaking, he had already stepped into the flower bed, which made the Du family's expressions change. They were all worried that Jin Hen and Jin Yu would suddenly burst out and hurt Zhao Xinyu, and at the next moment, a huge black shadow rushed in from outside the gate. After seeing Jin Hen, Jin Yu and Haifeng in the flower bed, they roared at them several times, while Jin Hen and Jin Yu also whispered in return. When Zhao Xinyu came to their side, Jin Hen and Jin Yu spread their huge wings and patted him a few times. Zhao Xinyu also reached out and patted them. This made Du Mengyao and the others' blood surge, and they fell off one by one. Go up the steps and approach the flower bed. Jin Hen and Jin Yu tilted their heads and looked at the five strange humans, their eyes full of doubts. It was obvious that they did not know Du Mengyao and the others. Mengyao, don't think about it. Jin Hen and Jin Yu have known each other for more than half a year. They won't even let me get close. Only Zhao Xinyu and the others are willing to get close. At this time, Jiang Pengxin and He Yuzhu, who were playing outside, also ran back. When the two little guys saw Jin Hen and Jin Yu, they climbed over the flower bed and came to Jin Hen and Jin Yu. What left Du Mengnan and the others speechless was that Jiang Pengxin and He Yuzhu could also touch the feathers on their bodies, but they could also see that Jin Hen and Jin Yu had a certain repulsion towards the two of them. Suddenly Jin Hen and Jin Yu murmured several times at the same time. Zhao Xinyu, who was turning over the wild boar, looked at Jiang Pengxin and He Yuzhu. Xiaopeng, Yuzhu, they are leaving, you go out. The two little guys climbed out of the flower bed. Jin Hen and Jin Yu looked up to the sky and roared. Two strong winds blew again. The two big guys fluttered their wings and rushed towards the east of the yard. The black wind also roared and rushed out. Courtyard. Brother Xinyu, can you understand what they are saying? Zhao Xinyu chuckled and picked up the two wild boars. After staying here for a long time, I understand what they mean. They have emotions and sorrows just like humans. Meng, you sit with them first, and I will send the wild boars outside. Zhao Xinyu, who was carrying the wild boar out, didn't notice that the Du family members were looking at him blankly, and the eyes of the two strong men who followed the old man were even more trembling. A wild boar weighs more than 100 kilograms, and two heads weigh more than 200 kilograms, but Zhao Xinyu carried it away like two chickens. No one could believe how strong his arms were. A weak scholar had such arm strength. The two strong men protecting Du Gang were both practitioners of ancient martial arts. Their arm strength was far superior to that of ordinary people. They could easily lift two wild boars out of the yard at the same time like Zhao Xinyu. They asked themselves that it was really a bit difficult. Du Gang's eyes flickered a few times. Liang Yongjun, Lu Fei, come with me to go out and have a look. Du Mengnan and the others seemed to understand something at once, and they followed them out of the yard. Behind the compound, Zhao Xinyu placed the wild boar in an open space. When he turned around, he saw Du Gang and the others. Mr. Du, why are you out? Du Gang chuckled and said, Liang Yongjun, Lu Fei, you go and give it a try. The two nodded, and with a movement of their bodies, a faint force of strength was released from their bodies. In the blink of an eye, the two of them were in front of Zhao Xinyu. One to the left and one to the right, they shot at the same time, and two strong winds blasted towards Zhao Xinyu. There were faint sounds in the space. Zhao Xinyu was stunned for a moment, and suddenly twisted his body. He avoided the blows of the two men with a posture that was difficult for ordinary people to do. The next moment, he moved his hands. Liang Yongjun and Lu Fei retreated at the same time, but a little slower. Liang Yongjun's neck, Lu Fei's neck. Zhao Xinyu grabbed his wrist at the same time. Zhao Xinyu's eyes suddenly surged with excitement. Being able to become Du Gang's bodyguard, it goes without saying that the two of them have strong skills, but now they were counterattacked by him when they made the first move. This was something Zhao Xinyu did not expect. He let go of his hand and nodded to the two people with horrified faces. Du Gang and the others took a deep breath, and everyone's face was full of disbelief. Liang Yongjun and Lu Fei are the captains and deputy captains responsible for protecting the old man. Many times they have seen them sparring. One person can deal with 7 or 8 other bodyguards, but now they take the lead but are countered by Zhao Xinyu. What is this? With this concept, Zhao Xinyu is far stronger than them. At the beginning of the chapter, I asked you to read it silently 3 times. Do you remember? Share on Facebook and there may be surprises. Chapter 63 The Taste of the Year. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Recite the Situ website silently 3 times. Do you remember it? If you don't remember, I'll ask again in the next chapter. It's best to share it on Facebook for me. You are an Anjin cultivation base. Liang Yongjun asked with a hint of horror. Zhao Xinyu was stunned for a moment, with a trace of confusion in his eyes. Brother Liang, what is Anjin? Cultivation level. Liang Yongjun and Lu Fei were stunned at the same time. They could see from Zhao Xinyu's eyes that Zhao Xinyu was not pretending. I don't understand. These are the self-defense techniques my grandpa taught me. Zhao Xinyu didn't dare to say the 5 God art and Ruying Suifeng. His words were not very harmful, but they were extremely insulting. They were overpowered by a young man who didn't know what cultivation was. This made Liang Yongjun and Lu Fei very hurt. Come back, Du Gang said with a smile. Let's discuss when we have time. Although they lost, the two of them were very unwilling. Sister, why don't you say that Zhao Xinyu is still a hero? His moves are so cool. I like boys like this, Du Mengyao said with stars in her eyes. But Du Mengnan was greeted with a big eye roll. Let's go, someone is coming, let's go back first. Du Gang saw Han Tianliang coming with several villagers. This was brought back by Jin Hen and Jin Yu again. Han Tianliang asked with a smile as he looked at the 2 wild boars weighing more than 100 kilograms on the ground. Looking at Jin Hen and Jin Yu standing not far away, Zhao Xinyu chuckled. They are giving us New Year's gifts. Wild boars are very active. I have eaten them several times since I was a child. They taste better than the wild boars raised by people. I heard that they are just wild boar teeth and can be sold for several yuan each, said a middle-aged man in his 50s. The young man said with a smile. Zhao Xinyu laughed and said, Uncle Yongping, the teeth of these 2 wild boars belong to you. Okay, by the way, you have a lot of wild boar meat. Can you sell some of it to me? Give me a few kilograms and take it back to let the children satisfy their greed. You're right. Jin Hen, Jin Yu, and Heifeng can eat most of it in one meal. They have a lot of people at home. How much can be left? Han Tianliang pointed at Jin Hen and the others. Forget it, they are happy with the boar tusks. Uncle Yongping, don't listen to Grandpa Han. They can catch wild boars at any time. Please bring a few kilograms with each of you later, and take all the pigs' hooves with you. By the way, I'll also set up a stove here. The pots at home, the stove is too small. With more people and greater strength, everything was ready in about an hour. Zhao Xinyu directly threw the large pieces of bone and pork into the pot for processing. More than an hour later, Du Mengnan, Du Mengyao and several other young people arrived at the back. They smelled the aroma of meat in the air and swallowed their saliva one by one. Brother Xinyu, when will this stew be cooked? I'm so hungry. Zhao Xinyu glanced at Du Mengyao and said, come on, in half an hour, you ask Sister Qian to cook. When it's done over there, it will be about the same here. Half an hour later, Zhao Xinyu opened the cauldron, first made 3 large basins for Jin Hen, Jinyu, and Heifeng, and then poured out the rest, but he still filled 5 large basins, thinking that there were 4 people at the table at home. He gave another pot to Jin Hen and the other 3, and then asked Han Li and the others to carry back the stewed bone-in pork. When the bone-in pork was brought into the restaurant, the strong aroma of meat instantly overpowered the aroma of other dishes in the restaurant. People in the restaurant kept swallowing their saliva when they smelled the aroma of meat, except for the Du family. Everyone in the restaurant is from the village. The villagers have no scruples at all. When the bone-in pork is served, they go straight to it. Each person has a large piece of bone-in pork, and the food is full of grease. At this moment, people often all that talk about eating big chunks of meat and drinking big gulps is reflected in the restaurant. The Du family, who were originally embarrassed, saw that the villagers were enjoying the food, so they all rolled up their sleeves and grabbed the big bones. In less than 20 minutes, all 4 large pots of head-on pork were eaten clean. Du Mengyao licked her fingers and looked at Zhao Xinyu. Brother Xinyu, are there any more? I still want to eat. This is something I have never eaten before. The most delicious meal ever. Han Li let out a long sigh. A total of 8 big stew pots were made. We have 4 pots here, Jin Hen, Jinyu, and Hei Feng's 4 pots. No, I will take mine with them. Before anyone could react, Han Li, Han Jun and the others rushed out of the restaurant, leaving the Du family with stunned faces. You must know that Jinyu, Jin Hen, and Hei Feng are all animals. They are so dirty, and these people have to compete with them for food. This is unacceptable to them. Seeing the reaction of his family, Du Mengnan smiled lightly. You don't know, Jin Hen, Jinyu, and Heifeng eat the same as us. They don't eat anything that falls on the ground. Most of the time they eat cooked food. They also grab food from us. Whoever gets it belongs to whom. This made the Du family even more stunned. They had never heard of such a thing. According to this, the 3 big guys around Zhao Xinyu were not the same as humans. When they were stunned, Han Li and Han Jun came back from outside dejectedly. Han Li couldn't help mumbling. Obviously they didn't grab it. When Jiang Pengxin and He Yuzhu, who were the last to come in, appeared, people saw that each of the 2 little guys had a piece of bone-in pork that was still steaming. Zhao Xinyu laughed and said, you can't even snatch 2 children. It's so shameful. What can't be snatched? We can't snatch Jin Hen, Jinyu, and Heifeng. They deliberately left 2 big bones for Xiaopeng and Yuzhu. Han Li said speechlessly. This sentence made everyone in the restaurant even more excited. It was a laugh. They didn't mean to do it, but the Du family were shocked. They could hear from Han Li's words that these people treated Jin Hen, Jinyu, and Hei Feng as if they were family members, and the 3 of them were in front of them. The animals here especially protect the 2 children Jiang Pengxin and He Yuzhu. Brother Xinyu, when can I eat stew like this again? Just come here often. Du Mengna said with a smile. Du Shichang laughed and said, Meng, I know why you come here so often. It's just for this. I'm too busy. If I weren't busy, I would come here every day. These words made Du Gang's heart move. Xinyu, we will be here tonight. Do you still have a room here? Yes, the room is enough. Du Mengnan chuckled and said, Zhao Xinyu, have you prepared my room? When you're ready, you can see for yourself. Whichever room you like will be reserved for you. It's right next door to you. That room is nice. Du Yongchang was slightly startled, but he had no choice but to smile bitterly. His father fell in love with Zhao Xinyu and had been urging Du Mengnan to win over Zhao Xinyu for a long time. Moreover, he could also see that his daughter also had a good impression of Zhao Xinyu. When he saw Zhao Xinyu this time, according to his every move, the knot in his heart is slowly disappearing. Come on, take me to see you. When Du Mengnan and Zhao Xinyu took the Du family to choose a room, Hanli and the others also went out to light the fire that had been built. Soon after the fire was lit, villagers in twos and threes entered the yard. Where could Hanli and the others go to get cigarettes? Melon seeds and fruits are placed in one place for the villagers to get by themselves. After choosing a room, the group sat in the living room for a while. Zhao Xinyu looked at the time and stood up. Mr. Du, let's go. We have a custom there. If you turn around, you will have good luck in the next year. Du Gang nodded. You do have such a custom in your place, but not here. Come on, let's go for a walk. According to your custom, we will lead everyone to drive away this year's bad luck and let good luck come tomorrow. Zhao Xinyu went out and glanced at the kitchen. Zheng Min and the others had already gone out at some time. The group of people went to the compound. On the road in the middle of the compound, there was a large fire that was more than 6 meters high. At this moment, the fire was so powerful that not only the villagers, but also people from the nearby city were surrounding it. When the villagers saw Zhao Xinyu coming, they moved away automatically. Zhao Xinyu laughed and told everyone about their customs. Then he looked at the villagers and said, remember, you must not talk while walking. In an instant, the courtyard with 700 to 800 people fell silent. Zhao Xinyu put his hands on his chest and took the first step. The Du family behind him also imitated Zhao Xinyu and began to walk around the fire. Many people thought silently in their hearts. Follow with your heart's desire. After 3 turns clockwise and 3 times counterclockwise, the crowd burst into cheers. After the cheers, people took out their mobile phones one after another. After more than 10 minutes, people started to stand up and count down, 10, 9, 8, 7. When the last number was read, a dull sound came from behind the compound, and then colorful fireworks bloomed in the sky. At this moment, loud shouts resounded through the sky, and the entire compound instantly turned into a sea of joy. The faces of the villagers in Xihanling were full of longing for the future. Infected by the villagers, the faces of the citizens coming from the city also a blossoming smile bloomed. Du Gang, who had retreated to the courtyard, looked at the fireworks blooming in the sky and listened to the cheering people in the distance. He said with emotion, this is the real New Year. If there are lantern festival activities, it will make this new year even more exciting. Lived perfectly. Dad, every year the streets and companies in the city organize lantern festival activities. Du Yongchang said softly. Du Gang shook his head. The real lantern festival is held among the people. The folk lantern festival activities are more lively. They only need to order fruits and candies to release their enthusiasm. Those in the city only value giving to others every day. They don't have the funds for their activities. They don't understand what the real Chinese New Year is. They really miss the Chinese New Year in the old district, where they could celebrate the Chinese New Year happily with a handful of dates and peanuts. At this moment, people in the compound were silent. As Du Gang said, no matter how busy they were in the past, wanderers would return home to celebrate the New Year with their families before the Chinese New Year. However, with the development of science and technology today, many people want to make things easier for them. Although the younger generations live a happy life, they often choose to stay in a foreign country, and the charm of the real New Year is lost. At the beginning of the chapter, I asked you to read it silently 3 times. Do you remember? Share on Facebook and there may be surprises. Chapter 67: A Trip to the Black Market. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. Recite the Situ website silently 3 times. Do you remember it? If you don't remember, I'll ask again in the next chapter. It's best to share it on Facebook for me. When he passed through an alley again, Zhao Xinyu saw acres of rice fields, which made Zhao Xinyu couldn't help but ask, "Brother, where are you taking me?" The boss laughed and said, "Don't worry, little brother, I'm just responsible for running errands. No one will force you to do anything here. If you like something good, you only need to pay a little shipping fee, and we can help you transport it to your designated location." The place. After hearing what the boss said, Zhao Xinyu understood in his mind where he was about to go. It should be a black market that never saw the sun. Although he rarely goes out, his grandfather taught him a lot of things back then, and he also learned a lot after going to college. The black market has black market rules and a certain background. In the black market, you only need to have money, and there will be no such thing as gangsters taking advantage of gangsters. Knowing that the place he was about to go was a black market, Zhao Xinyu felt much calmer. He stopped talking and followed the boss with his head down, but he peeked around from time to time. There is a closed door on the back wall of a row of tall houses. The door looks very ordinary. In such a hot and humid place, it is a bit unusual for the door to be closed. The boss walked to the door and knocked on the door rhythmically a few times. Then the door opened, and a stern-looking man looked at Zhao Xinyu, who was following behind the boss. The boss nodded to the strong man and said, "Little brother, just go inside and choose your items. Dan can help you transport them to where you want. Next time you come over, if you still want to come over, just go to the stall and find me." There is a compartment inside the door, but after entering the compartment, Zhao Xinyu has vaguely heard the noisy voices. When he exited the compartment, Zhao Xinyu saw that it was at least 100 meters long, completely enclosed and invisible. A confined space with a hint of sunlight. The huge incandescent lamps in this space illuminated the space as bright as day. There were at least hundreds of people walking around in front of the stalls arranged in the space, choosing what seemed to be objects. "Little brother, see what you like. If the item is too big, let the stall owner write it down and we will settle the bill together then," said the big man who came in with Zhao Xinyu. Zhao Xinyu nodded. He entered this space with his backpack and walked through a few stalls. Zhao Xinyu was surprised. He heard customers and stall owners discussing prices. A seemingly inconspicuous small item was tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, or even millions. Zhao Xinyu didn't know anything about antiques, and he didn't bother to look. He went directly to look for ancient book stalls. There were indeed good things in such places, but such places were not very safe. When Zhao Xinyu passed an antique stall again, his body froze slightly. He saw a small box 3 feet square on the stall. The outside of the small box is already modeled, and the yellowed underlying paint inside has been exposed in several areas. If you get closer, there is a faint scent of sandalwood. There is an ancient keyhole on the box, and a plum blossom is carved under the keyhole. Although the plum blossoms are modeled, it can be vaguely recognized. There are 9 plum blossoms on it. This box is a medicine box used by Chinese medicine practitioners in the past, but most Chinese medicine practitioners today would not recognize it. However, in the glorious days of ancient Chinese medicine, medicine boxes used by Chinese medicine practitioners were strictly graded. Most traveling doctors also have medicine boxes in their hands, but there is nothing carved on their medicine boxes. If plum blossoms appear on the medicine boxes, it means that this Chinese medicine practitioner has already achieved a certain status in the world of Chinese medicine. The original level of Chinese medicine was based on the plum blossoms on the medicine box. The lowest level was 1, and the highest level medicine box would have 9 plum blossoms on it. There are very few Chinese medicine practitioners who can reach the level of 9 plum blossoms. At the same time, even if they grow old, their descendants will not be qualified to use the medicine boxes they hold unless their Chinese medicine skills can also reach the level of 9 plum blossoms. This kind of medicine box is different from the medicine boxes used in medicine today. Each medicine box has its own unique character. There is usually a mezzanine inside the medicine box, which is dedicated to placing some precious traditional Chinese medicine classics or medicines, so after Zhao Xinyu saw the medicine box, he couldn't help but take a few more glances. This made the stall owner immediately realize something. He stood up and looked at Zhao Xinyu. "Little brother, are you interested in something? I haven't opened the store yet today. Look. If you go, it will be cheaper for you." Zhao Xinyu smiled faintly. He squatted down and picked up an incense burner with green rust on it that was placed next to the box. What is the price of this incense burner? Little brother, I can tell you are someone who knows the goods. This is an incense burner from the Zhanda period, priced at 36,000 yuan. Zhao Xinyu nodded and his eyes fell on the box. Boss, this box is quite special. There are some good things in it. The boss's eyes flickered a few times. This box is nothing, but this box is made of sandalwood. You should know that sandalwood is the golden wood. This box is hundreds of years old at least, and this sandalwood is more valuable. Zhao Xinyu put down the incense burner, picked up the box, shook it a few times, and his heart moved slightly. He could feel that there seemed to be something inside the box. He opened the box casually, but it was empty. However, Zhao Xinyu went to his forehead and saw that there was something inside and outside the box. A slight difference. My friend just wanted to get some sandalwood bracelets. How much does this box cost? If the price is right, I will buy the incense burner together. The boss's eyes flickered for a few times. His eyes fell on Zhao Xinyu, but he found that Zhao Xinyu's eyes were fixed on the incense burner again. 36,000 for the incense burner. If you want it, give me a total of 50,000 with this sandalwood box. Zhao Xinyu shook his head and glanced at the stall for a few times. Then his eyes lit up. He saw something that looked like amber. What was wrapped inside was not insects, but strange-looking seeds. And that amber-like thing was of great significance. There are a few cracks in the things. Well, give me 50,000 yuan and this broken amber handle, and I'll see if I can find someone to repair it when I go back. Okay, look, little brother is a cheerful person. Do you want to take it away or send it out together later? Zhao Xinyu laughed and said, it's nothing like this. I can just take it with me in my equipment bag. I can save the time and return it later. After paying and leaving, Zhao Xinyu continued to look along the stalls to see if there was anything interesting to see. Because of what happened just now, he also specially focused on the antique stalls, not to mention, this black market has everything you need. As long as you can think of it, you can see it on this black market. Zhao Xinyu also harvested 6 unique ancient medical books, which made Zhao Xinyu very excited. The purpose of his trip: it is an ancient medical book. Not only is it an ancient medical book, but it is also a medicine box that only the top Chinese medicine practitioners can carry. With a full harvest, Zhao Xinyu glanced at the stall in front of him and saw that it was only a few dozen meters away from the end. He did not leave in a hurry, but continued to search for treasures at the stall. He even had an idea in his mind, that it would be fine in the future. Xian went to Pengcheng's black market to have a look. Suddenly, Zhao Xinyu's eyes narrowed. He saw a stall selling antiques. There was a tree that looked like a potted plant on the stall. The tree is only 50 or 60 centimeters tall. The dark brown trunk is like a 1,000-year-old tree with deep cracks on it, and the branches are as vigorous and coiled as a horned dragon. There are no leaves, but there is a faint fragrance of tea. The roots without soil are blood red, and the faint juice seeping out of them is as meaningful as blood, which makes Zhao Xinyu's heart skip a beat. Boss, what is this? The boss was stunned for a moment, then shook his head. I don't know about this either. This seems to be a tea tree, but I don't dare to say what it is specifically. If you like it, let Bachin take it away. How long has this been going on? I can't survive. I dare not say this. My friend got this thing. He said that the soil under this small tree is blood red. I was also curious and bought it. If you really want to give me 5,000, I also spent 5,000 to get it from him. Zhao Xinyu smiled faintly, lifted the small tree, transferred 5,000 to the boss, and then walked to the next stall with the small tree. But at this moment, there was a dull sound, and a big hole appeared in the wall not far away. Figures filed in from the big hole. In an instant, the whole space became a mess, and people moved towards Zhao Xinyu. Running wildly, Zhao Xinyu's heart sank. He was surrounded by people and headed in one direction. Looking at the panicked people, he also understood that something bad was going on. Suddenly all the lights in the space went out, and the entire space instantly became pitch black. Zhao Xinyu's heart moved, and the small tree in his hand and the backpack on his body were all sent into the space by him. As a cool breeze blew, he saw a bright color, and panicked people rushed out of the space from a small door. The next moment Zhao Xinyu rushed out, he felt something being grabbed next door, and I didn't have time to look, so I rushed out with the crowd. After running a few steps, he found a big bag hanging on his arm. He didn't know what was in the big bag, but it was quite heavy anyway. Zhao Xinyu did not throw away the big bag, but directly threw the big bag into the space, and then followed the others and rushed to the rice field not far away. Just as they arrived at the edge of the rice field, a loud shout came, and people in uniforms blocked their way. Who could care about this at this time? They didn't care about anything at all and kept rushing forward. Zhao Xinyu threw away the two policemen. The next moment he stepped into the rice field, a figure threw him to the ground, followed by a faint fragrance. Without thinking, he moved his body and pressed the other person under him. Then Zhao Xinyu's face showed a trace of astonishment. He saw that the person under him was a delicate beauty with an appearance no less than that of Du Mengnan. At this time, he didn't care too much. As soon as he pressed the woman, he instantly felt a soft feeling and a painful groan came. Zhao Xinyu had already stood up and bent down and submerged into the rice field. At the beginning of the chapter, I asked you to read it silently 3 times. Do you remember? Share on Facebook and there may be surprises. Chapter 68, Condensing Dantian. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Recite the Situ website silently 3 times. Do you remember it? If you don't remember, I'll ask again in the next chapter. It's best to share it on Facebook for me. When Zhao Xinyu entered the rice field, the girl turned over. At this moment, her pretty face was blushing, and her eyes were filled with tears of embarrassment, and she chased after Zhao Xinyu. Last year, he stayed in Kailiang Mountain for more than 4 months. He spent a lot of time walking through the mountains with Heifeng and the others. His foot strength was not comparable to that of ordinary people. Soon the girl lost sight of Zhao Xinyu. Scoundrel, don't let me catch you. If I find you, you will be dead. Looking at the direction in which Zhao Xinyu disappeared, the girl stamped her feet and said coquettishly. After running for an unknown amount of time, Zhao Xinyu finally appeared on a remote street. As night fell, I turned around and looked around. Many areas around me were being demolished, so the streets were dark without any roads. Even if there were no demolished houses nearby, it was still dark. At this moment, Zhao Xinyu himself didn't know where he was. He could only walk along the street, trying to find a taxi to return to the hotel he booked. Suddenly, Zhao Xinyu's eyes flickered for a few times. He saw 3 black shadows in front of him. When he looked behind him, he saw the same 4 black shadows behind him. The 7 people were not dressed like ordinary people. Likewise, Zhao Xinyu seemed to feel a faint murderous aura in them. He took a few steps back, then turned around and entered a courtyard where the upper and lower walls had been demolished. 7 people stepped up and blocked him in the courtyard. Crunch, 7 crisp sounds, 7 cold lights flashed under the stars, and a folding knife appeared in the hands of each of the 7 people. What are you going to do? Zhao Xinyu frowned. He already had a premonition that something was not going to happen, but he did not take action. He wanted to see if the purpose of these people was robbery or not. Don't blame us. If you want to blame yourself for offending people you shouldn't offend. Remember not to offend people you can't afford to offend on your way to hell. As the words fell, the 7 people moved and rushed towards Zhao Xinyu. Their eyes were full of cruelty. It was obvious that they had no intention of giving Zhao Xinyu any chance of survival. Zhao Xinyu retreated quickly and instantly entered the ruins of a room with the roof removed. The 7 people did not notice that Zhao Xinyu's hungry eyes were already flashing with cold light at this moment. It's very good. The place I chose is suitable for me. When the 7 people started to move again, they suddenly felt a figure flash and a gurgling sound. They saw a companion falling limply to the ground for some reason. Without thinking much, they all turned around and rushed towards Zhao Xinyu again. This time Zhao Xinyu blocked the door. He did not hold back. As soon as he made a move, the two of them were blown away. They fell heavily against the wall and struggled a few times. But they didn't get up. I have lots of ideas, let's work together. Within a few breaths, for cries of pain rang out, and the scene instantly became quiet. Looking at the 7 corpses on the ground that were beginning to lose their vitality, Zhao Xinyu had no trace of pity in his eyes. He bent down and put the 7 corpses into the space, picked up their folding knives, turned around and left. When he left, he was still wondering who he had offended and how they knew he was in this place. Until he returned to the hotel room, Zhao Xinyu still didn't understand why he had offended someone on the first day in Yangqing when he first arrived. After all, it was his first time in Yangqing, and he felt that he didn't know anyone in Yangqing. The next moment his mind flashed, Pengcheng, he had offended people in Pengcheng, and they found people to come to Yangqing to deal with him, but now he has dozens of lives in his hands, but he really doesn't know who wants to attack him. Knowing that someone was going to do something to him, Zhao Xinyu locked the door and checked the room. After confirming that there was nothing abnormal in the room, he took a deep breath, went to the bathroom, locked the door, turned on the shower, and squirted under the mist. When it filled the air, he stepped into the space, look at the unknown small tree. He chose a place near the lake and planted the small tree. The next moment he poured space water under the tree, the whole space trembled violently, the clouds above the space are rolling, and the air you breathe has become fresher. The area of the space is increasing at a speed visible to the naked eye, and the vegetables, species, and fruit trees in the space are all changing. A faint red mist filled the trunk of the small tree that had just been planted. As the red mist spread, the trunk grew rapidly like a balloon, and traces of green appeared on the crown. Feeling the change in his meridians caused by the aura permeating the space, Zhao Xinyu's heart moved. He sat down cross-legged and started to operate the Hongmeng Sutra, frantically absorbing the aura surging in the space. I don't know how long it took. Zhao Xinyu exhaled softly and slowly opened his eyes. As 2 rays of light flashed, his eyes returned to clearness again. After standing up and feeling the changes in his body, Zhao Xinyu's eyes showed a hint of excitement. He felt that the airflow in the meridians in his body was getting stronger, and the airflow seemed to be hitting the Qihai and Baihui acupuncture points. Feeling this change, Zhao Xinyu's heart couldn't help but beat wildly. Could this be a sign that he wanted to cultivate his internal strength? You must know that Qihai and Baihui are 2 major acupoints in the human body. Grandpa once said that if you want to have internal power, you must have Dantian to accommodate it. The internal power in the meridians alone is not enough to support diagnosis. It is precisely because of this that Mr. Luo always feels powerless when giving him acupuncture. After every acupuncture, he seems to be seriously ill. Now that he had an opportunity, of course he would not miss it. He sat down cross-legged again and began to mobilize the air flow in his meridians to attack the Qihai point. Without running the Hongmeng Sutra, the airflow hits the Qihai point, leaving only a sore and numb feeling. But when running the Hongmeng Sutra mobilizes the airflow to hit the Qihai point, a burst of tearing pain instantly spreads throughout the body, which makes Zhao Xinyu he couldn't help but groaned, and his face turned ugly. Of course, Zhao Xinyu knew that cultivation was to go against the will of nature, and it was not as easy as he imagined to achieve the great path. He gritted his teeth and turned the airflow in his meridians to hit the Qihai point again. Painful groans kept coming, and he felt that the slightest crack finally appeared on the originally round Qihai point. When the airflow was turned again to impact, the Qi point, which was already full of cracks, was broken through. The airflow contained in the meridians instantly rushed through the Qi point, causing the meridians in the Qi point to suddenly swell. This is the Dantian, Zhao Xinyu knew in his heart. Thinking about pulse diagnosis and acupuncture, which requires internal strength, the bigger the Dantian is, the more content it can accommodate. To understand this, the Hongmeng Sutra is running like crazy. A stream of air enters this area and impacts the meridians. The meridians become larger and larger. In the end, the air flow inside forms a vortex. Every time the Hongmeng Sutra circulates, the vortex will rotate crazily, and the tearing pain of the meridians being stretched will spread throughout the body again. Thinking about the hardships he has endured over the years, Zhao Xinyu persevered time and time again, reaping rewards from the pain every time, and the volume of his Dantian under the impact of the airflow was getting bigger and bigger. walnut size. The size of a ping-pong ball, baseball size, goose egg size. In the end, Zhao Xinyu felt that there were tiny cracks on the newly opened Dantian, and he stopped. At this moment, the volume of the Dantian was as big as a volleyball. Feeling the changes in his body, Zhao Xinyu let out a long sigh. When he circulated the Hongmeng Sutra again, the surging airflow on his body seemed to have changed. It was more solid than when the Dantian was not condensed. Just when Zhao Xinyu was about to run the Hongmeng Sutra to warm up his Dantian, when the Hongmeng Sutra started to run, the internal energy in his Dantian was out of control and poured out. He couldn't stop even if he wanted to. The violent internal force surged out from the Dantian. How could the thin meridians withstand it? The internal force in the meridians could not hold it, and the internal force surged towards other meridians. 8 extraordinary meridians. Zhao Xinyu felt the area where the internal force rushed through, and his heart moved. Grandpa once said that the 8 extraordinary meridians are the most important meridians of the human body. If the 8 extraordinary meridians can be made unobstructed, human potential will be greatly developed. Now that his internal force was out of control, he could only let the violent internal force bombard the 8 extraordinary meridians. Of course, you still have to endure the tearing pain. After suffering again and again, Zhao Xinyu, who was pale, showed a hint of excitement on his face. The Ren channel is clear. The Du channel is open, the Yangji pulse is clear. I don't know how long it took, but the 8 extraordinary meridians were opened one by the violent internal force. At this moment, Zhao Xinyu felt that his whole body was extremely comfortable. Not only the meridians became thicker, but also the internal force flowed in the 8 extraordinary meridians. Feeling comfortable, a smile appeared on Zhao Xinyu's face. Just when he was about to stop practicing, his expression suddenly changed. He felt that the internal force in his Dantian and the 8 meridians were once again reversed and rushed towards the Baihui key point. At this time, Zhao Xinyu's expression changed drastically. He is a Chinese medicine doctor, but he knows the importance of Baihui point. If Baihui point is damaged, he will become a fool if he cannot hold on. Knowing the consequences, he ran the Hongmeng Sutra crazily, trying to stop the internal force in the meridians, but the more he did this, the more violent the internal force in the meridians became. Ah! With a heartrending scream, Zhao Xinyu felt that his Baihui point was smashed to pieces, and his mind seemed to be chopped open. Under the unbearable pain, Zhao Xinyu collapsed. The ground lost consciousness. He didn't know that at the moment he fainted, the violent internal force had already broken through the Baihui point, and then began to turn into a vortex in the Baihui point. A space the size of an adult's fist slowly appeared at the Baihui point. The next moment the space is formed, the internal force that turned into a vortex no longer rotates, but flows in the space like a stream. The internal force flowing out enters the Dantian through the 8 extraordinary meridians, and then the internal force flows out from the Dantian through the 8 extraordinary meridians and enters again. The space at Baihui point. In this way, the internal force circulates continuously in the 2 spaces, and the color of the internal force is also changing. Gold, green, blue, crimson, and earthy yellow, the 5 colors alternately change, and finally condense quietly in the 2 spaces. But Baihui, the internal force at the acupuncture point, seems to be thinner than that in the Dantian. At the beginning of the chapter, I asked you to read it silently 3 times. Do you remember? Share on Facebook and there may be surprises. Chapter 69, Little Brother. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Recite the Situ website silently 3 times. Do you remember it? If you don't remember, I'll ask again in the next chapter. It's best to share it on Facebook for me. Not knowing how long it took, Zhao Xinyu woke up faintly. He stood up suddenly and looked around. Then a trace of relief appeared in his eyes. His consciousness was still there and he had not become a fool. He stood up and felt the changes in his body. He could feel that the 8 extraordinary meridians were full of agile internal force. Because of the impact of the internal force, there were no cracks in the damaged meridians and Dantian. The internal force contained in the meridians and Dantian made his body full of explosive energy. Suddenly his body shook, and he felt that his Baihui point had disappeared, and a Dantian the size of a football appeared where the Baihui point had originally been. It is also full of energy. Although the energy is much less than the Dantian under the Qihai point, it is actually a Dantian. This discovery made Zhao Xinyu completely stupid. He knew that a cultivator only had one Dantian, but now he had two Dantians, which made him a little confused. The breath on his body fluctuated slightly, and the Hongmeng Sutra began to operate. What surprised him was that the energy in the two Dantians began to flow, and they were the same 8 extraordinary meridians. There was no conflict between the two, but they just flowed out from the Dantian below. The energy is stronger. After racking his brains, he couldn't figure out the reason. Zhao Xinyu shook his head. He simply didn't think about it. Maybe the answer could be found in the books left by his grandfather. Looking up at the space, the unknown small tree had grown to nearly 2 meters. The original brown trunk became more mottled, but the color turned red. What surprised Zhao Xinyu was that the leaves on the tree were no longer the green they were when new shoots sprouted, but turned blood red. Even the green soil in the area covered by trees turned light red. The whole tree was surrounded by a strong fragrance of tea. The fragrance alone made him feel intoxicated. Looking carefully at the blood-red leaves, Zhao Xinyu showed a trace of confusion in his eyes. This was really a tea tree, but the leaves of the tea tree it was all emerald green, but why it turned into blood red now, he couldn't figure it out. He reached out and picked off a leaf and put it into his mouth. Immediately, his eyes flashed with excitement. The tea tree was indeed real, and the unfried tea leaves made him feel intoxicated. The fragrance also gave him a refreshing feeling. Zhao Xinyu lives in the north. Everyone knows that there are no tea trees in the north, so he doesn't know much about tea. In his heart, this tea is definitely top-notch, because he has never smelled such a smell. Excited, Zhao Xinyu looked around and saw that the space had expanded again. The area had increased by another 50 or 60 acres. The lake had also expanded a lot. Every living thing in the space had undergone considerable changes. Suddenly he thought of the corpses thrown into the space. He had been busy in those days and didn't bother to deal with them. Now that he really had inner strength, he felt comfortable and decided to deal with those corpses. When he arrived at the place where the corpse was placed, Zhao Xinyu was stunned again. He saw a jungle appearing in that area. Pine trees and ash trees grow alternately in the jungle, and the corpses have disappeared, leaving only some clothes, mobile phones, folding knives and so on the ground. Space can still have such effects. Zhao Xinyu couldn't help but be dumbfounded. Considering that he didn't know how long he had been here, and he didn't check to see if there were any good things in the mezzanine of the box used by ancient Chinese medicine, he left the space with a sudden thought. When he arrived outside the space, he took out his mobile phone and looked at the time. Then his eyes suddenly shrank, and he felt bad. The date displayed on the mobile phone was that today was the day for the traditional Chinese medicine examination. The examination time was 8:30. It was 8 now. 20. He hurriedly changed his clothes, without even bothering to wash his face, and rushed out of the hotel with his backpack. The Yangqing Traditional Chinese Medicine Association is an ancient building that is at least over 100 years old. Perhaps due to the decline of traditional Chinese medicine, the paint on the main door of the Traditional Chinese Medicine Association has become mottled. Although today is the annual Traditional Chinese Medicine Assessment, and candidates from several regions are taking the assessment in Yangqing, there are only a few people in front of the gate of the Traditional Chinese Medicine Association at this moment. In front of the gate, a middle-aged man in his 50s looked at the list in his hand, frowned, and there was a hint of disappointment in his eyes. There were not many candidates who applied for the exam this time, but there were still a few who did not come. Just when he turned around to go in, there was a sound of running, and he couldn't help but turn his head. The next moment, there was a trace of contempt in his eyes. He saw a young man with unkempt beard and messy hair hurried over, and when the young man approached him, he smelled a smell from the young man's body that made him nauseous. Zhao Xinyu, who hurried over, saw the change in the middle-aged man's expression. He was slightly startled. In fact, he smelled his own scent when he came over. Now that he saw the middle-aged man's appearance, he knew why the middle-aged man there will be a look of disdain for him. His heart moved slightly, and then he thought of a young man in the village when he was a child. He laughed and walked up to the middle-aged man. "Little brother, I'm here for the assessment too, the time is just right." When he saw this, not only he was middle-aged, but also the people who came with his relatives and friends for the assessment couldn't help but look at him, and there was a hint of weirdness in everyone's eyes. He was dressed like a human but not slovenly. He smelled like that, and he still spoke in such a slick tone, which made everyone look at him with a hint of disgust. Zhao Xinyu didn't pay attention. He glanced at the middle-aged man lightly and said, "Zhao Xinyu, where is the assessment place?" That the middle-aged man gave him a cold look and said angrily, "Keep going in. There are people inside who are dedicated to receiving candidates." Passing through a corridor, Zhao Xinyu smelled the fragrance of medicinal herbs. Outside the corridor, he saw a large medicinal field of about 5 or 6 acres. Many of the medicinal herbs in the medicinal field could be described as expensive in medical stores, and there was a rickety figure in the medicine field. The clothes on the figure's owner couldn't bear to be looked at directly. It could be described as sloppy. There were oil stains on it in many places. The old man's hair was gray, and he was just like him. It was very messy, which made Zhao Xinyu very happy. "Little brother, you take good care of these herbs." Zhao Xinyu joked after thinking about his current appearance. The owner of the rickety figure was shocked and turned to look at Zhao Xinyu. Then a strange smile appeared in his eyes. Although Zhao Xinyu was still dressed cleanly, his hair was messy and there was a layer of black on his face. Obviously this guy hasn't washed his face in an unknown amount of time. The old man turned his head, and Zhao Xinyu could see clearly the old man's appearance. Although his hair was messy and his body was sloppy, the old man's face was as tender as a baby's skin, and there was no trace of senility at all. "I only see it so small." There was a narrow smile in the old man's eyes. Zhao Xinyu laughed and said, "Your face is as tender as a baby. Calling you little brother means you are old." Although he said this, there was a trace of regret in Zhao Xinyu's heart. He could tell that although the old man was sloppily dressed, he was not an ordinary person. Zhao Xinyu could tell from the old man's hands that were stained with dirt but still white and tender. The old man's attainments in traditional Chinese medicine are extremely advanced, but after what he said just now, and the old man's question, he could only get off the road and continue to talk glibly. The old man laughed and said, "Boy, I love hearing this. You seem to be late soon." Zhao Xinyu shrank his eyes, exclaimed, turned around and ran towards the door where several staff members were standing at the door. When he ran over, he saw the middle-aged men and women looking at him with extremely expressions. Weird, obviously those few people heard the exchange between him and the old man just now. Zhao Xinyu gave his name and then quickly walked in. The few people frowned and glanced at the old man with a trace of confusion in their eyes. The old man's status in the Chinese Medicine Association is transcendent. The old man is slovenly dressed, and this young man is similar to the old man. Could it be that this young man and the old man have a special relationship? Otherwise why did they talk like that just now? They knew that not only the people from the traditional Chinese Medicine Association, but also the famous Chinese medicine masters in China were all respectful in front of the old man, and now, Zhao Xinyu entered the room and saw that it was a space with an area of at least thousands of square meters. Although the space was large and there were many tables and chairs inside, it was extremely old and could almost be described as an antique, and the space there were less than 100 people in the crowd, and there were many white-haired old people among them. As he walked over, Zhao Xinyu's eyes narrowed slightly. He saw that the 4 groups of people in front of him were all wearing robes unique to ancient Chinese medicine, but they were in different colors. Seeing these 4 groups of people, Zhao Xinyu was shocked again. He suddenly thought of what his grandfather had said. Could it be that these 4 groups of people are all inheritors of ancient Chinese medicine? What puzzled him was that the family of traditional Chinese medicine had a transcendent status in the world of traditional Chinese medicine, and their disciples should not be with people like them during the assessment. Although he was confused, Zhao Xinyu did not approach those people because of the unpleasant smell on his body. Instead, he sat in an unoccupied seat a few rows away from them. His arrival did not attract the attention of the people in front. The people in front were sitting quietly. At this time, an old man wearing a green robe came out of the corner door and walked behind a table on the stage. Then he coughed lightly and said, "I'll click on it." Name: Li Ming. As the names rang out one by one, Zhao Xinyu's eyes fell on the four groups of people. He wanted to know which of the four groups of people were going to take the traditional Chinese medicine examination. Sun Buhui. As this name rang out, the originally quiet venue let out exclamations one after another. People in modern clothes all turned their heads to look at a group of people wearing blue Chinese medicine robes. At the beginning of the chapter, I asked you to read it silently 3 times. Do you remember? Share on Facebook and there may be surprises. Chapter 70 Elimination. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. Recite the Situ website silently 3 times. Do you remember it? If you don't remember, I'll ask again in the next chapter. It's best to share it on Facebook for me. Amid people's exclamations, a Miaomon figure stood up. Although Zhao Xinyu, who was sitting behind him, could not see clearly the appearance of the owner of Miaomon's figure, he could see from the stunning eyes of those in front that Sun Buhui the appearance is definitely good. I didn't expect it to be Sun Buhui from the Huayuan Sun family. I heard that she is a genius not seen in thousands of years. Her medical skills are as good as any traditional Chinese medicine master, and her ability to distinguish medicine is comparable to that of the ancestors of the medicine king. Hearing this discussion, Zhao Xinyu was shocked. The Huayuan Sun family was the hometown of Sun Simiao, the king of medicine. From that person's words, he could tell that Sun Buhui should be a descendant of the king of medicine, but Huayuan is more than 1,000 miles away from Yangqing. Why did Sun Buhui come all the way to Yangqing for the traditional Chinese medicine assessment? Is it possible that the Northwest region doesn't even have a traditional Chinese medicine association? When Zhao Xinyu was confused, a name was called out by the old man again, Huangfu Jisher. As soon as the name came out, there was another exclamation in the crowd, which shocked Zhao Xinyu. Could it be that this Huangfu Jisher is a descendant of the Anding Huangfu family? Huangfu Mi, who settled the Huangfu family, was also a master of traditional Chinese medicine who was no weaker than the king of medicine, Sun Simiao. Huangfu Mi was unique in the field of traditional Chinese medicine and acupuncture. The acupuncture and moxibustion classics A and B that have been passed down to this day is Huangfu Mi's precious legacy to traditional Chinese medicine. In the world of traditional Chinese medicine, the Aoki sacred needle is a secret that is not passed down in the Huangfu family. And Huangfu Mi was even called the king of needles. When Zhao Xinyu was surprised, a slender figure stood up. Huangfu Jisher cupped his hands towards the old man and sat down. At this time, there were comments from the crowd, which confirmed Zhao Xinyu's guess that Huangfu Jisher was the descendant of the Anding Huangfu family. The descendants of the medicine king family and the acupuncture king family are all in the northwest region, but now they come all the way to Yangqing for the traditional Chinese medicine examination. This makes Zhao Xinyu really confused for a while. Glancing at the other 2 groups of people who were also wearing ancient Chinese medicine robes, Zhao Xinyu thought to himself that they were all inheritors of famous ancient Chinese medicine families. Song Miao, another young man, stood up, and there were also exclamations from the crowd. Zhao Xinyu couldn't help but smile bitterly. He didn't need to listen to other people's comments, he could guess Song Miao's origin. Song Miao should be a descendant of the Song family in Jianyang. Song Ci, a master of traditional Chinese medicine, once appeared in the Song family in Jianyang. It was he who carried forward the surgical procedures of the famous Dr. Bien Quebec. Thunder Phoenix, a woman with the same graceful figure, stood up from the crowd, but the difference was that the woman wore a sunflower with silver ornaments unique to the Miao family on her head. Lei Feng stood up without exclamation, but when Zhao Xinyu saw the silver sunflower on her head, his eyes shrank slightly. Lei Gongshan Lei family. Others don't know about the Lei family of Leigong Mountain, but he heard his grandfather once say that the Lei family of Leigong Mountain is a family that has been passed down in Miao territory for thousands of years. The Lei family of Leigong Mountain is best at detoxification, but the Lei family rarely comes to the world. So I know that most of the Lei family are inheritance families in the traditional Chinese medicine world. When Zhao Xinyu was surprised, the Lei family of Leigong Mountain also sent their children to take the traditional Chinese medicine examination, and the name Zhao Xinyu rang out. Zhao Xinyu subconsciously stood up and said loudly with a hint of teasing, "Little brother, I am here." As soon as his voice came out, the entire space became deathly silent. The old man on the stage was Nyoda, the vice president of the Yangqing Traditional Chinese Medicine Association. Not only in Yangqing, but also in the Chinese traditional medicine community, when Nyoda was mentioned, at least he understood everyone who practices Chinese medicine knows this. Now he was called a little brother, which made everyone turn to look at Zhao Xinyu, and almost everyone had a trace of anger in their eyes. When Nyoda saw Zhao Xinyu's look, his eyes were full of disgust, and in his heart he had already kicked Zhao Xinyu out of the sacred profession of traditional Chinese medicine. They didn't see a slovenly old man at the gate with a weird smile in his eyes. The middle-aged men and women standing next to the old man were suppressing their smiles. "Mr. Hua, do you know this young man?" A middle-aged man asked the sloppy old man in a low voice, his expression full of respect. The old man shook his head. "I don't know him, but I like this guy's character." His words made the middle-aged men and women look even weirder. Everyone hated such an unabashed and glib young man, but this old man was nice, but he said he liked them. Nyoda on the stage suppressed his anger, called out a few names, and then said loudly, "Those who are participating in the assessment, please prepare and come to the front. The traditional Chinese medicine assessment will begin immediately." When Nyoda finished speaking, 10 figures appeared one after another at the corner gate. The owners of the figures were all old men over 60 years old, and some of them could even be described as senile. They went up to the stage and sat on the prepared chairs. There were signs with their names on the table in front of them. Although Zhao Xinyu was far away, he could clearly see the names on the sign. Although he didn't recognize the people on the names, the surnames made him guess that these people all had extraordinary origins. When Zhao Xinyu walked through the passage, many people couldn't help but frown when they smelled the scent of him, and the disgust in their eyes became even stronger. Walking to the front, Zhao Xinyu made a visual inspection and found that there were more than 30 people participating in the assessment, including the 4 people wearing ancient Chinese medicine robes. Thinking about the hundreds or thousands of Western medicine examinations each time, Zhao Xinyu couldn't help but sigh. While he was sighing, several people around him showed a trace of disgust towards him. "Look for the table with your name, and the assessment will begin immediately." Zhao Xinyu found his position. He saw several young people around him covering their noses. This made him shake his head inwardly. As a Chinese medicine doctor, he had such a reaction. Even if such a person passed the assessment, he would not be that big. Promotion. When Zhao Xinyu sighed, a person in front of him turned his head and glanced at him. "Sun Buhui." Zhao Xinyu's heart moved. From the exclamations just now, he knew that Sun Buhui's appearance must be outstanding. But after seeing Sun Buhui's appearance clearly, he was used to seeing such a stunning Du Meng man, and he couldn't help but be surprised. One time, she is 22 years old, about 1.7 meters tall, with a pretty face that cannot be concealed even without makeup, and a light gray ancient Chinese medicine robe that is difficult to conceal her curvy body. The most rare thing about her is Sun Buhui. There was no trace of the disgust on her pretty face like others, instead it was extremely plain. The first item is to identify the herbal medicines. Find the 20 prescribed Chinese herbal medicines within 5 minutes. If you make 2 mistakes and fail the assessment, as Nyoda's voice sounded, each staff member piled up at least 50 kinds of Chinese medicines. A plate of straw was brought up and placed in front of each assessor. These more than 50 kinds of medicinal herbs are only 1 inch in size and almost the same thickness. Many medicinal herbs are almost identical in appearance. The most perverted thing is that the Chinese medicinal herbs only have 1 section, so it is impossible to identify them from the leaves. As Nyoda started, Zhao Xinyu picked up a piece of paper on the plate, looked at it for a few times, then reached out to search for it on the plate. "Every time I pick one up, I put it under my nose and smell it." In less than 2 minutes, Zhao Xinyu found 20 Chinese herbal medicines, while the people around him were still fiddling with them. They looked up at Sun Buhui in front, who had also stopped. After Nyoda shouted to stop, the staff immediately came over and took away the herbs and lists that were found in front of them. A few minutes later, Nyoda got a list, and then loudly read out to the people who had passed. There were originally more than 30 assessors, but 16 people were eliminated in the first category, and only 17 people were left on the scene. When the eliminated candidates left the assessment area, many people were surprised to find that Zhao Xinyu, who they hated so much, was still in the assessment area. Shit luck, this guy must have stepped on shit luck. Most of them suddenly thought this when they saw Zhao Xinyu still staying in the assessment area. In the second assessment, a case appeared on the big screen on the stage. Symptoms, diagnosis results, and the patient's reaction were all displayed on the public screen. Each person participating in the assessment issued a prescription, which must be from Treatise on Febrile and Miscellaneous Diseases Fong Z. This item is to assess the memory ability of the candidates. After this item, 4 more assessors were eliminated, leaving 13 on the scene, but the disgusting Zhao Xinyu still remained in the assessment area. In the third assessment, another prescription was issued and the examiner was asked to find errors in the prescription, then 6 more people were eliminated. Now there were only 7 people left in the assessment area. In addition to the 4 people from traditional Chinese medicine families, there were 3 others. Zhao Xinyu still stayed on the field. The disgust in everyone's eyes slowly faded. After disappearing, they also saw that this Zhao Xinyu was not what they imagined. This guy really had something in his belly. The last item is the 2 diagnostics of sight and smell among the 4 diagnostics of traditional Chinese medicine. The next moment, a patient was pushed up. The patient was in his 60s, his face was sallow, his eyes were bloodshot, his eyes were dull, his lips were chapped, and a disgusting stench came out of his mouth. The remaining 7 people passed by one after another, but none of them spoke. They could only be identified by looking and smelling. The time spent by those who went up was longer or shorter, but none of them took more than 10 minutes. Then they wrote down the diagnosis results one by one. A few minutes later, Nyoda brought over a list. He glanced at Zhao Xinyu coldly. I will announce the elimination list, Zhao Xinyu and Li Chun. At this time, there was a burst of exclamation in the originally quiet venue. Li Chun left the assessment area with a red face, but Zhao Xinyu looked at Nyoda with a playful smile, and then looked at the 10 judges on the stage. It's normal for traditional Chinese medicine to be eliminated from the examination, but we also know the reasons for the elimination. At the beginning of the chapter, I asked you to read it silently 3 times. Do you remember? Share on Facebook and there may be surprises.